never get free. Lamb to the slaughter, what you gon' do when there's blood in the water? The price of your greed is your son and your daughter. What you gon' do when there's blood in the water?
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. So today I wanted to go over a wide misconception on what is considered a healthy aquarium and what is not. There is one such aquarium that abuses marine wildlife on a daily basis. I'm sure you are all familiar with the aquarium known as Seaworld. Well, they are not as legitimate as a company as you may believe. Now, I'm sure some of you are aware of the atrocities that Seaworld has committed thanks to the documentary called Blackfish. If you haven't seen it, I highly advise seeing it. It will educate you on pretty much how evil Seaworld is. Blackfish also shows the true nature of orcas, which is as a very intelligent species. One of the trainers was even so bold to say working with orcas was like working with an alien species. When we look at the brain scan of an orca, you can note that some of the areas of the brain are actually more developed, especially in the emotional, where the brain processes emotions. It's more developed than ours is. So this goes for all marine mammals actually. So they are actually all much more developed emotionally. That's why you see whales on mass strandings. That's why you see dolphins never wanting to leave the side of their child. So marine mammals feel emotion on a much deeper level than we do as humans. Well, there is much more that Seaworld has done that wasn't covered in the documentary, so I want to shed some light on it and why that they should just shut their doors down permanently. At Seaworld, more than 100 marine wildlife, not excluding marine wildlife actually, including polar bears, have been captured from the wild and have died under Seaworld's care. And like I said, this is not limited to orcas. This includes sharks, dolphins, polar bears, almost every type of species they have had in captivity has died. So let's go back in time a little bit. In 1978, Seaworld captured 2 sharks from the ocean and put them in an enclosure. Within 3 days, they would run into a wall and sunk to the bottom of the enclosure. They died. Seaworld continues to capture various shark species and ends up killing them every year. This is including hammerhead sharks, and like I talked in my previous video, 6 out of the 9 hammerhead shark species are going extinct. They are not helping with this at all. In 1983, 12 dolphins were captured from their home waters in Chile to be put on display at Seaworld. Half of them died within 6 months. That's a dolphin a month. Seaworld has separated 2 bonded polar bears, Sinja and Snowflake. After they spent 20 years together, leaving Sinja without any other members of her species to interact with. She died 2 months later, more than likely with a broken heart. It doesn't stop there. A dolphin named Ringer was impregnated by her own father, and that means that there's a good chance that her last calf was inbred as well. She's had several babies, and all of them have died in captivity. And then, you may be saying, well, that was 20, 30 years ago, so what are they doing now? They've certainly fixed their ways, right? Actually wrong. In 2011, the company took 10 baby penguins away from their parents in Antarctica and shipped them to Seaworld in California for scientific research. It's even more recent than that. In 2015, Seaworld shipped 20 penguins via FedEx on a 13-hour journey from California to Michigan, transporting them inside small plastic crates with air holes and forcing them to stand on blocks of ice. Now, this next one is actually a pretty tragic story. So there was a beluga whale named Nanu, and he was abducted from his home at just 6 years old. And what Seaworld did to him was truly atrocious. They used him for artificial insemination. So basically this means that they would take semen from him and forcefully impregnate other beluga whales. He was removed from the water 42 times total to collect a sperm. 6 of his babies died at birth, or shortly after. Nanook also died after his jaw was shattered under the care of Seaworld. Now, I do want to note real quick that Seaworld has completely ended their orca breeding captivity. All of that has stopped. They said that the orcas that are there now are going to be the only orcas that are there, period. But just to give you kind of a glimpse as in what Seaworld did to cover up these completely illegal and just inhumane activity, they hired orca hunters that hired divers that would, when they were kidnapping these orcas from their pods, several of them died while just in the process of capture. They hired divers to cut open the stomachs of 4 orcas, fill their bodies with stones, zip them back up, put an anchor around their tails so they would sink to the bottom so nobody would know. This was not known until the documentary Blackfish, where one of the actual orca hunters talks about this tragedy. Another orca's named Corky, last baby was found dead at the bottom of a tank. Corky's family is still out in the wild and is found on several occasions, but Seaworld refuses to release her back to her home. And like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg of things that Seaworld has done. Seaworld also sexually abuses their animals. Seaworld would forcefully masturbate a orca called Tillicum, and pretty much use his sperm to forcefully impregnate the other whales that were held there. He is the biological father of more than half of the orcas held at Seaworld currently, and more than half of his children have died. Orcas in captivity also developed severe tooth problems. That means decay, aching, falling out, all that type of stuff. Seaworld, in order to keep the orcas' worn and broken teeth from becoming infected, employees would drill out the inside of the teeth, often without any aesthetics or painkillers, and then flush them out on a daily basis. Not only does Seaworld pose a threat to this marine wildlife, they also pose a threat and endanger their own employees. Seaworld's corporate incident report contains reports of more than 100 incidents of orca aggressions at its parks, often resulting in injuries to humans and even causing one death by extensive internal bleeding. Followed by a 2006 attack by an orca on a trainer at Seaworld in San Diego, the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health concluded that it was only a matter of time before somebody else was killed by one of these orcas. A further investigation into these attacks could have prevented injuries and even death. Now, there are several more atrocities that Seaworld has committed, but if I listed all of them, we'd be here for hours. But hopefully you get a better picture at why Seaworld is such an evil corporation and why they should shut down their doors permanently. It is important to note the difference between aquariums that do things like this and the aquariums that take animals in to rehabilitate them. The one that I volunteer for, the Virginia Beach Aquarium, takes in animal species that are either being rehabilitated or cannot survive in the wild because of poachers. Please share this video to educate people on why we should stop funding Seaworld and push for them to permanently close their doors and release animals held in their place and release them into the rightful place in the wild. These animals are intelligent, perhaps even more evolved than we are on an emotional level. Please do not forget to subscribe and like this video, and feel free to share the video that I've made previously about sharks. Also, new merchandise is available in my store, so feel free to grab a shirt or a case or whatever you like from it. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the water.